nothing has changed, except the house is back where it was supposed to be. The foundation is lower than it was supposed to be because that was the settling that happened. But when all is said and done, I didn't change anything. Hey everyone, I'm going to show you how I raised the front of my house by about an inch. The front of my house by the front door and the second floor bedroom by the front window felt like walking downhill, which was annoying. To top it off, the front door would only open about 2 feet and then get stuck against the floor. Poured concrete footer at the ground level. Instead of bolted on sill plates, there are doubled up rim joists. During inspection, my own inspection, I saw that there was no rotting in the rim joists. Of course, if the rim joists were rotten, you're not going to be able to raise a house by lifting up on a rotten rim joist. And I noticed the settling was combined to the front crawl space foundation, with more settling on one side near the downspout. So, looking at my options, the first option I had was just rehang the front door. Another option possibly could have been hydraulic lifting with externally installed piers done by a pro. And another option would be to just replace part or all of the crawl space foundation and build in some deeper footers. So with that option, you could possibly level floors inside the house. I don't like that because I want to correct the problem. I don't want to cover over the problem. So we went with the non-pro option that I figured out on my own of first underpinning the existing foundation footers by about 18 inches. So we're adding 18 inches of concrete underneath the existing footer, and underneath that new underpinning added a 32-inch Pilex helical pier, which can be manually drilled into the ground with just human power. And I underpinned in spot locations, not underneath the whole foundation. So the total original footer plus the underpinning plus the pier comes to about 4.5 feet, which is hopefully enough to prevent further settling. And once the underpinning was done, I jacked up the house and put oak and galvanized steel shims between the cinder blocks and the rim joists. The work that was involved: first I dug the underpinning from within the crawl space, and dirt was not removed from the crawl space, so when it's all backfilled, there's a little less room in the crawl space than there was originally, with the addition of the 25 bags of concrete mix. And I underpinned no more than 4 feet wide at a time, actually 3 feet, as I'll discuss below. And I manually screwed in helical pier as far as possible within that hole that I just dug. Then in the middle of the hole, I manually screw in the helical pier. With it, you use about a 14-inch piece of 2x4 to stick in the top of the helical pier, and you turn it with your hands. And eventually, you're going to need to kick it with your feet and turn it with your feet, like you're a gorilla or something. And then when it's screwed in down as far as you can go, then you whack it a bit with a sledgehammer to get it more or less vertical. But the main point is to get it completely underneath the existing foundation so that it will be completely embedded in the concrete that you pour. Then I hose off the dirt from the underside of the foundation. Then I put in the plywood forms. I used 1/4-inch plywood. I mixed the concrete in the crawl space, 1 80-pound bag at a time. Each underpinning took 5 to 8 bags of concrete. And I wound up underpinning one complete side of the crawl space, one spot in the front, and one spot on the other side of the crawl space, for a total of 4 underpinned locations, 3 of which included helical piers. And in the spot in the front of the house, I was also able to dig from the outside, so I could in fact dig deeper for that one. And of course, as deep as you can go is what you're after, because you're trying to remove the fill that the house is built on, which is kind of loose in places. Even under the foundation was kind of loose, so you want to dig down just as far as you can reasonably do, and replace that with concrete. And I removed the wood forms afterwards, so that we could really pack the dirt in right against the underpinning. And within each helical pier, I first filled it with the tube of the helical pier with mortar, and then I dropped in a length of rebar, and then pounded the top down onto it, so as to make the helical piers a little bit stronger, because they're designed for use with a back porch. They're certainly not designed for use with a house. Oh no, then I put in about 2 inches of gravel in the hole, let the water dissipate from the water that I had sprayed under the foundation, and put in the gravel, compressed the gravel with the sledgehammer, and then poured the concrete. And in a couple places where I was going to do a wider underpinning, like 4 feet, first I dug 3 feet wide, and then I used a cylindrical form to build up like a pier underneath the footer, concrete filled pier, and then removed the form when the concrete was cured, and dry packed and put in some bricks to really support the foundation. Then I dug wider on either side of the cylindrical pier, and then put in the plywood form and poured the concrete as was done in the other instances. I lifted the house with a combination of 6 jack posts under the joists and the central beam, and also directly with bottle jacks directly under the rim joists. And so how do you get the bottle jack under the rim joists? You knock out a half of a cinder block every 4 to 6 feet using the rotary hammer in hammer only mode, trying to keep the pieces of cinder block that you knock out as big as possible, because you're going to have to mortar them back in place, because these were actually decorative cinder blocks. So we knock out those holes in the cinder blocks, put the bottle jack in there, and then I stacked 2 3x5 by 1/4 inch plate steel cutoffs from 3-inch wide plate steel I got from Home Depot. Put those 3x5 inch plate steel between the bottle jack and the rim joist to spread the load a bit. And after you lift to one side and put in the shims, then release the bottle jack, go to the other side of the house, lift, shim, and then go back and forth until it's finished. Mortar over the shims in the crawl space, so to connect them to the cinder block and to keep everything from moving around over time. So this was like a low impact improvement. I didn't change the overall structure of the house at all. The shims between the cinder block and the wood framing of the house, So nothing has changed, except the house is back where it was supposed to be. The foundation is lower than it was supposed to be, because that was the settling that happened. That's it. Have a good day.